All right, let us move to sexual follies. So I keep seeing the girl going across, but other people are seeing me, right? Going, why can't I see me? I think that's funny. It's
Forgot to change it.
this place. This is, see, people think I pick on them, but this is, all right. So
Stop harassing me.
that's right. I'll pay. Well, I'll give you $32 million. Just keep your mouth shut. So, you know, I have to just look up who wrote this thing because I actually put this down here and I forgot to put down who wrote it. But this is a piece. Wait a minute. I will find it. Oh, it was in the Week. That's where it was. Okay. I'm going to just see if I can get the author's name because I hate not to give him credit. But in the Week, he wrote an article called The End of Sex. And here, let me just read a little bit to you because this is about kind of the stuff we started out talking about, the Harvey Weinstein of it all and the Bill O'Reilly of it all. He says, I think it is becoming obvious that the progressive dream of a world of casual sex free from both guilt and consequences is in practice a nightmare. It is simply not possible to produce, much less promulgate and insist upon, uniform adherence to a code of sexual ethics that applies to interactions with persons one barely knows, to whom one has no binding obligations, guided only by the barometer that measures the chance of getting your rocks off. It's almost as if we need some kind of institution where people kind of pledge to be together and take care of one another forever, and then, like, you know, if they're children, they take care of the children. And I don't know. Maybe we should invent something like that. He says even the standard of consent, according to which sexual behavior becomes a kind of economic activity governed according to contract law, is not exhaustive enough to account for the infinite variety of situations in which people acting outside ancient constraints might find themselves. Sex becomes a question of interpreting signals, of arithmancy, of rune casting. Inevitable signs are going to be misinterpreted, often willfully, because other people are, frankly speaking, vile. People are vile. He says, I am not under the illusion that millions of Americans are only one more #MeToo revelation from professing belief that fornication and adultery are immoral and the sexual act is only licit in the context of lifelong marriage. But I do think that we are approaching a point at which people are getting increasingly fed up with sex, wishing for a broader, more inclusive understanding of what it means to be human than someone who, with permission or having given it, wants to interact in a variety of ways with other people's private parts. This is a remarkable thing to see anywhere, and in the Week, which is kind of it's supposed to be just all the news and all the commentary, but it really is it tends to be a left wing, it tends to slant left, I think. But it's a remarkable thing to see, because it is what conservatives always say. You know, conservatives say if a thing can't continue, it won't. If somebody says this can't go on, if it can't go on, it won't. This has happened before, and I have pointed, people always think, the left always loves to say the toothpaste can't go back into the tube. That's always what the left says. What they always say is like, well, let's try this, and you try it, and then they say, oh, well, you can't go back. There's no going back. But people do go back. And I know I bring this up a lot because I happen to be fascinated by the Romantic period, the period between the French Revolution, say, and maybe the end of the Napoleonic Wars, maybe a little after that, 1820, 1825. This was when people were revolutionary. They thought, the French Revolution, they thought it was the age of Aquarius. They thought this was, everything is going to go. The church is going to go. Kings are going to go. Sexual morality is going to go. Everything is going to be new. God, no God, forget about it. It's all going to be fresh, new. It's all going to be scientific. It's all going to be reason. The age of reason has dawned upon us. And of course, it ended up with the terror in France and World War across Europe as Napoleon invaded just about everybody and his Aunt May. In that period of time, there were people thinking things very much like what sexually liberated people think today. And I always point to, certainly Byron was sleeping with everybody on Earth, and Shelley was basically saying marriage is a fool's game. It's, William Blake, the poet William Blake, was saying the same thing. William Blake was funny because William Blake was faithfully and happily married his whole life, but he was always talking about how marriage was an old-fashioned, restrictive thing. And you could see why. You would marry this person. You couldn't get divorced. You were stuck with this person for life, and it was terrible. Shelley just left a trail of absolute destruction sexually in his wake. After that period, came the Victorian age. It just ran out. The idea of sexual revolution just ran out. It's not so much the illegitimate children, though the illegitimate children are a plague in black communities and in poor white communities as well. Illegitimate children are a plague because they mean that poverty will go on another generation and one after that and after that. They are basically at risk for terrible behaviors because they haven't got fathers, because they haven't got a mother who's responsible for them. And abortion, believe me, doesn't help because abortion's been legal for years, and in the time since abortion has become legal, illegitimacy has shot up. But that's not it. That is not it. We are more than our physical selves. It's that simple. It is that simple. We are not what they tell us we are. We are not a collection of atoms. We are not a brain that is just flashing messages around, automatically for some reason. We are a spirit capable of engaging with the world in a spiritual way, and ultimately, people figure this out. And you know who figure it out first? The people who figure it out first are the educated, well-to-do people who have two parents who teach them these things and who maybe go to church, and they figure it out. And the problem we have now is that they have figured it out because basically well-to-do, upper-middle-class people don't have children out of wedlock. They get married. They get married when they're ready. They have children when they're ready. They do all those things, but what they don't do is they don't preach it to the poor, because that makes them judgmental, that makes them unhip, that makes them racist, because to say, oh, black people, maybe you should follow bourgeois white people is somehow racist. I don't believe that is racist. I think that is what we're dealing with, and I do think it is amazing that we'll start to hear this. I do believe a new Victorian age is coming with the good and the bad of that, but I do believe that one of those things is going to be people who are going to stop doing what destroys them. Smart people are going to stop doing what destroys them. And one of the things that destroys you is random sex. And it destroys you because it is against your spiritual self. The mailbag is tomorrow. We will answer all your questions. And your life. Go look in the mirror, then come back and tell me you don't need the mailbag. You need the mailbag. Subscribe for a lousy $10 a month. You can ask me any question. My answers are guaranteed 100% correct, and they will change your life now and then for the better. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show, and we'll see you tomorrow.